Good morning, everybody. It's Wake Up Wednesday. So wake up. I know you've been sleeping. Or if you're looking at this in the middle of the afternoon, I know you've been napping. Wake up. Hey, what we're doing, started it last week, doing it for the next couple of weeks yet too, looking at the book of Job, which is the alternate first lesson in the Revised Common Lectionary. Last week, you might recall, we had the scene set when in the first couple chapters of Job where Job, who's been this righteous guy, gets whacked by God. Well, not really by God, it's by God's little heavenly minions up there. One in particular called the Satan, who decides to, have a little go with God himself. Because God said, hey, he's the most righteous guy on the earth. And the Satan says, hey, you want to bet? And starts afflicting him with all these different miseries. So, to make a long story short, now we're at the point, in fact, we have about 20 some chapters of it, where Job and three of his friends are going back and forth, arguing over why is all this bad stuff happening to me, who I thought I was a pretty decent guy. Don't you often feel that way? Why is all this bad stuff happening to me? And that is the predominant feeling amongst the Jewish people. In fact, much of what we have in the Older Testament is kind of a mechanical view of the way the universe works. In other words, if I'm a good boy and I'm a good girl, God's going to bless me. If I'm a bad boy and I'm a bad girl, I'm going to get whacked one way or the other. And all of a sudden, Job is saying, this can't be happening because I didn't do anything wrong. Whereas three friends are trying to convince him, you had to do something. Think hard. There's something about your life, Job, that's not right, or else this stuff wouldn't be happening to you. So the world's been turned upside down. And you have 20 some chapters of poetry that is kind of tough sledding. It's hard to get through it. It's wonderful stuff if you know the Hebrew language and you can read it in that, but for us being translated into English, it gets a little rough around the edges. And what our reading for the alternate reading that we have for today is from the 23rd chapter. It's the first couple of verses, maybe 7 or so, and then it skips all the way to verses 16 and 17. But read the entire chapter. I say that all the time. Just read the whole thing. But we have it right at the very beginning where Job answering who? He's answering his last friend who said, come on, just give in and confess to God that you're a sinner. And Job is saying, I'm not doing it because I'm not a sinner. I didn't do anything wrong. And he says, today also my complaint is bitter. His hand is heavy despite my groaning. All right. Job is the one book of the Older Testament that is very difficult to get a handle on because of the language that's in there, meaning the Hebrew language. We don't know what half the words really mean. And this is one part right here where it says my complaint is bitter. That word bitter, in looking in different parts of Hebrew literature, ancient Hebrew literature, it can mean either bitter, it can also mean rebellious. So is Job being rebellious, or is he just plain mad at God? I think bitter is the better translation, although there's other commentators that say, no, it should be rebellious, because after all, he should be faithful and true right through it all. No, he's bitter. He's angry at God. In fact, what he goes on to do now is he demands to have a trial. And guess who's on trial? It's not him. It's God. He wants to put God on trial, because now what Job is saying is, yeah, there may be this mechanical view of the universe, but if anybody is at fault, it's not me. It's not that I did something wrong and now I deserve to get whacked. It's God's messed up. God is making the mistakes, and he wants to have a showdown with God. Let's put it that way. He wants to have a trial, a heavenly trial of sorts. But there's only one problem with this, and that would be it's in some of the things that aren't being read the lectionary for some reason skips it over, but it's important. And let's look at verse 8. If I go forward, he, meaning God, is not there. Or backward, I can't perceive him. On the left, he hides, and I cannot behold him. I turn to the right, and I can't see him. In other words, I can't find God anywhere to serve him with his summons to come to trial, so to speak. God, it seems to be absent in his life. Now, that's quite a different viewpoint than what we see throughout the Older Testament scriptures, where God is everywhere. And you can't get away from God. He pursues us no matter what. And now Job is saying, I don't know where he is, and I really want to get this settled. Now, going all the way to the very end of this chapter, verses 16 and 17, God has made my heart faint. The Almighty has terrified me. If only I could vanish in darkness, and thick darkness would cover my face. In other words, he just wants to die. He wants to get this over with. Now, again, this is where we have difficulties with the Hebrew text, because if you use other meanings behind some of these Hebrew words, you come out with a completely different final sentence. The final sentence here is, if only I could vanish in darkness, and thick darkness would cover my face. You could also translate that, but I am not destroyed by the darkness. He has concealed the thick darkness from me. In other words, I'm hanging in there till the end. Wait a minute. Either you want to die, or you're hanging in there till the end. It's a tough one. And I'll tell you, through all the different commentaries that I've been looking at, it goes both ways. Commentators just really aren't sure what we're to make of this verse. I think it's kind of interesting that that's the way it is, because isn't that the way our lives are sometimes? We don't know which way to go. I just want to get it all over with. God, don't we contemplate sometimes, wouldn't it be just better if I wasn't here anymore? You know, people do get to that point in their lives where they're so down and out. That seems to be the only way of escape. Just kill me. Just to blot me off from the face of the earth. Or I'm hanging in there, and God, no matter what may happen to me, I'm never giving up. I'm hanging in there to the bitter end. Two completely different ways to look at troubles that surround you in your life. Job, is that what he's going through? And maybe, was that intentional, this kind of writing in the book of Job, to leave it up to us to figure out what's going on, and maybe just to show that, hey, sometimes we come to that fork in the road, one way or the other. Interesting, isn't it? Interesting. Well, this is where we're going to stop for now, and we'll have to see where we go next in the book of Job when we look at it next week on Wake Up Wednesday. Enjoy your day. We have at least 7 to 10 days of absolutely awesome autumn weather coming our way. A couple raindrops here and there, but mid-70s? How can you beat that for the middle of October? God's blessings be with you.